Now, when you're crowded with options, it's not because you have amazing players at that position. It's because you don't. You don't typically have 3 or 4 amazing players at the same position. So when there's a lot of players you're lumping into one thing, that means, yeah, it's not the best group on your team there. And obviously, we lost Saquon Barkley this year, and it's the running back position. Devin Singletary is going to obviously be number 1. The question is, who is going to be number 2? And who's going to be that primary backup running back there? Because this is not going to be like it was the last couple of years, guys. The last couple of years, this was the Saquon show. Meaning Saquon 100%. Was the starter. He was 90% of the snaps he was in. I can look up the exact numbers, but it just felt like he never went off the field, basically, except when he was healthy. Injury. As I said, except when he had an injury.
Yeah.
This is going to be a different team. And this is going to be much more of a running back by committee. But even a running back by committee, you don't have 6 guys getting snaps. You know, you get 2 or 3. That's what you get. And besides Devin Singletary, there's not a single guy that's really, really established. This is legitimately could be the toughest battle to call in all the conversation we're to have on either offense or defense as far as the battles coming into the season here for positions. You know, the group includes 2 rookies, a second-year player, and a third-year player. They all 4 of these guys total 18 career NFL carries. And there's just way, way, way too many unknowns right now to even call the battle. You got Tyrone Tracy Jr., who was a converted wide receiver, only played at running back there for the last 2 years. Only started 1 year at Purdue at the position. You got Eric Gray, who disappointed as a returner, but really never got a chance to show what he can do there during the season. Again, Saquon Barkley, I'm not blaming him when I say it, but he was a ball hog. He was a ball hog in the offense.
Rightfully so, though.
Well, and honestly, I would disagree with the rightfully so to a certain degree. I like a change of pace. I think they use him too much. But what I'm saying is it's not his fault. I'm not trying to kick him on the way out. That was the offense. That was the coaching staff. That's what they wanted to do. Whether he asked for or not, in the end, it's their call. You got Dante Turbo Miller, who hasn't played much since 2021. Like literally total wild card. You have no clue what to expect of this kid whatsoever. Though, again, we're hoping great things because we like his story. You got Jashawn Corbin in his 3rd year in the league now and hasn't got any playing time here or during his stint he had there briefly with the Carolina Panthers on their practice squad. That's not very promising, guys.
No.
But the great thing about the NFL is
any given Sunday.
It's not you're not wrong the any given Sunday, but it's not as much that what I was getting to is it doesn't always matter who your running back is as much as your running system as a whole. Is your offensive line opening holes? Is the running game working the proper way at that point? Meaning the schemes are set up right for both the personnel you have on the line and the receiver and the running back, but also set up based on how your offense is run as a whole, even through the passing game. You know,
yes, the way your quarterback plays goes a long way too. Because look at the styles.
It really hurt the Daniel Jones haters when they say that.
Well,
you're like, oh no, we suck.
Yeah, wrong, but. But what I'm trying to get at is like, listen, like, look at the running game that they have in Baltimore compared to the running game they have in
the quarterback is the running game.
But I mean, am I wrong for saying something like that? Like, you have a system, and a quarterback with, like a Lamar Jackson with Jalen Hurts, like more of a mobile quarterback you have, the more of a system you could put back there and be more efficient with. Compared to Anand. Because what you're doing is you're keeping the back line fresh constantly and keeping the defense on their toes.
Yeah. But it's also funny you mentioned the quarterback thing, because I think that's something that we haven't talked about on this podcast, or I haven't really heard many content creators talk about in general. Daniel Jones is not going to run like crazy.
Not this year. No.
Not this year. He's coming off an ACL. He's got the injury guarantee. I don't think they're going to use him the same way. Like, he was our 3rd down back though when he was on the field the last couple of years, guys. That's not going to happen. And that means these guys are going to have to step it up. They're going to have to. You know, you look at Deshaun Corbin will probably not make the final roster. I just don't think he's that good. Let's be honest. It's his third year in the league.
Yeah.
He hasn't really gotten any playing time, which tells you that nobody thinks that highly of him. When you can't get playing time with the New York Giants and the Carolina Panthers, two of the worst rosters in the entire,
That says a lot.
Yeah. Like, what's next? The Bears didn't want you either? I mean, like, seriously, like that's bad. That's bad. So you got to expect he's probably not going to make the final roster. You got Tyrone Tracy Jr. will definitely, in my eyes, make it, barring any kind of injury because of his draft status. You don't draft somebody in the 4th round just to cut him. That's kind of stupid.
Yeah.
So, to me, the big battle in this is going to be Eric Gray versus Dante Turbo Miller. So, Eric Gray, though, again, we drafted him last year. He's only had him for a year. We haven't even really given him a chance to see what we can do as a running back. Again, the fact that we didn't give him much of a chance tells me we don't think he has much of a chance. But you can make the argument he didn't get much of a chance necessarily as a running back because Saquon was a ball hog in the system. Again, not his fault, but he was. And he was 3rd in the depth chart. You don't get a lot of running, plays at that point with the 3rd running back on your depth chart when you have a guy that you're giving 90% of your snaps to.
I was going to say, especially when the 2nd guy on your depth chart had 5% of the snaps.
It's ridiculous, dude. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. If anything, I think that should have told us that the Saquon was going bye-bye because they were abusing the hell out of his body. It was kind of like the last year of what was the name of the Cowboy guy who had left the league in rushes, and then went to the Eagles for 1 year, sucked, and then went to the Titans, had a good year again. The running back they had before Derrick Henry.
Oh,
someone in the comments section, feel free to let me know who.
Yeah, please, someone,
because it's gonna drive me nuts. DeMarco Murray.
Yes,
Marco Murray. Like the Cowboys did that to him. They beat him into the ground, saying, "We're not going to cut. We're not going to sign him next year. Who cares?" The Giants basically did the same thing to Saquon. We probably should have seen the writing on the wall from that alone. But anyway, it's not a Saquon segment.
Yeah.
So it goes down to Eric Gray, goes down to him and Dante Turbo Miller. Now Dante Turbo Miller hasn't played again in 3 years basically. So are we really trusting a guy who hasn't played in 3 years, even though he has all the physical tools in the world? We talked about it. The guy was in the combine this year. He would have been a freaking beast. It would have been like top 3 in every single category, top overall in a lot of categories. So, look at our original when we signed Dante Miller there. We had a video on that there. They gave a lot of information on him. I tell you, it's an impressive story and impressive, results he had at South Carolina's pro day. But
yeah, I think we had a 17-minute video on this guy.
In the end, he's not going to score a touchdown because of his 40 time. He's not going to go ahead and break it for a 50-yard run because of his high jump. That's great and dandy. That's the underwear Olympics we're talking about there. It's the truth. My theory on when it comes to the combine and that kind of stuff. I don't like to use it as anything but a validation of my prior thoughts. That's what it should be. If you're making your predictions on a player specifically based on how they look in shorts and a shirt with nobody chasing them and no football in hand, you're making a mistake, point blank. So
the only time that you're not wrong, especially when it comes to the first round, but if you're looking at a guy based on his athleticism, and you want to see what he can do, that's when you get a little bit more of an advantage of seeing what he can do.
Yeah, if you're going to get a guy in the 6th round, you think you can fix him? Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
I'll give you that.
You're right. You're right. When you're drafting a guy, when you're drafting a guy in the first round, you don't need to see what he looks like when he runs in his Under Armour shorts.
The problem we run into with Dante is he played at Columbia, Ivy League school. He was the best running back in the Ivy League there for a couple of years. Then he goes to South Carolina, but he has 6 carries. Like they sit him so they can try to get that extra year of eligibility on him. But I mean, we never really saw him.
Goofed.
We never saw him against high end talent. except he had one huge long run with South Carolina. I forget who it was against, but I saw the video. It's impressive, but it was one run. I'm not going to judge somebody on one run. Yeah,
everyone's terrible player has a good run.
If that's the case, Daniel Jones should be the running back when he was running around like a drunken gazelle, falling down on the ground on his own.
They just run 60 yards and fall right before the end zone. Done.
Sums up his career, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's not wrong, I say it. So the question comes into be, basically, though. Like I said, do the Giants keep 4 running backs? Or is Turbo destined for the practice squad, or is Eric Gray destined to get cut or put in the practice squad? We're going to find out, guys. It's all going to depend on how they, do in the, in the offseason here. How they do in the preseason, how they do in the camps. If I had to place my money on it, Tyrone Tracy Jr. will be running back number 2.
Probably.
Running back number 3 will be Eric Gray. And Turbo will sit on the practice squad. But I will say this. That's a mistake in my eyes based on what I have knowledge-wise now. I think it's going to happen because purely I think the current regime has a taste for trying to validate their draft picks.
I mean, you're not wrong for saying that.
And that's what Eric Gray is. He's one of their draft picks. Turbo, they just signed as a rookie free agent. Again, long story. Go to the video for that. I'm not going to rehash the whole thing again. But I'm just saying, I think that matters that they drafted this guy. They want to make it look like they didn't make a mistake. But we all know they basically said in the press conference, they signed him.
Oh, we were talking about Shane. Pretty much admitted he was, made a mistake.
He signed to be a returner. He's like, he also returns. We just drafted one. Good job.
Yep, to do, Basil.
That's a Joe Judge kind of move. So, like I said, we'll see what happens there, but I think that's a fair guess of what I think will probably happen. The big question then will be, does Turbo Miller actually make it through waivers, or does somebody pick him up? Because he's got his fans. He might get picked up. He's got his fans out there, and we have no clue what he can do. So,
thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.